The first thing I noticed was that Claire Donovan was barefoot. The second was that one of the most recognizable women in America was standing on my front porch at 11:40 on a wet Thursday night, holding a cracked leather portfolio against her chest, like it was the only thing she had managed to save from a fire. I had not seen her in person in 4 years. She looked past me into the narrow hallway of my Portland townhouse and said, "Before you decide whether to let me in, I need to tell you something. The photograph that made me famous was yours." For a second, I thought I had heard her wrong. Then she added, "And that is not the worst part. If you have ever had someone from your past arrive carrying a truth you thought you were done needing, you probably understand why I opened the door before I knew whether I wanted the answer. My name is Ethan Mercer. I was 30 years old that night, and I made custom furniture for restaurants, small hotels, and people who liked to say words like handcrafted while bargaining over the price. I lived in Portland, Oregon, in the same townhouse Claire and I had once rented together when we were broke enough to split groceries and argue over whose turn it was to buy dish soap. I had been single for almost 2 years after an engagement that ended quietly, without betrayal or screaming, just two people finally admitting that comfort was not the same thing as a future. Claire was 26, exactly 4 years younger than me. When we met, she was a 21-year-old community college student working mornings at a bakery and evenings at a vintage clothing shop. When she left Portland, she was an unknown woman with a second-hand suitcase and a modeling contract in Los Angeles. By the time she came back, her face had been on perfume ads, fashion covers, airport screens, and a giant billboard I had once passed on Interstate 5 while trying very hard not to look up. And now she was in my entryway, soaked from the rain. I stepped aside. "Come in." She hesitated. "You might regret that." "Probably. But you are dripping on the porch." That almost made her smile. Almost. I gave her a towel and pointed toward the living room. She sat on the edge of the old green sofa we had bought together at an estate sale years ago. I had kept it because replacing a perfectly good sofa seemed stupid, not because Claire used to fall asleep on it during late movies. At least that was what I had told myself. She rubbed the towel over her dark hair and looked around. "You kept the bookshelf. You built half of it. I held boards while you built it. You complained with unusual commitment. That counts as labor." This time she did smile, but it faded fast. The portfolio stayed on her lap. I sat in the chair across from her. "All right. Start with the photograph." Her fingers tightened around the cracked leather edge. "You remember the picture you took of me on the fire escape?" I remembered it immediately. We had been roommates for about 8 months. It was late September, one of those rare Portland evenings when the rain stopped long enough for everybody to behave like summer had returned. Claire had come home exhausted from a shift at the vintage shop. She had changed into an oversized white shirt and sat on the metal fire escape outside our kitchen with a mug of tea, her hair still pinned up badly from work. I had just bought a used camera because a restaurant client wanted better pictures of the tables I was building. I was testing settings. Claire had looked at me and said, "If you take my picture, I am charging you rent twice. I took it anyway." She had laughed right as the shutter clicked. The photograph was not glamorous. Her knee was pulled to her chest. There was chipped paint behind her. A laundry line from the next building cut across the background, but the evening light caught one side of her face, and the laugh had not yet turned into a smile. She looked alive in a way staged photographs rarely do. I had printed one copy and stuck it to our refrigerator with a pizza magnet. "I remember," I said. Claire opened the portfolio. Inside was the same image, except this one was printed large on thick paper. In the bottom corner was a logo from a campaign I recognized. It belonged to a luxury clothing company that had used Claire in its first national ads. That was their launch image, she said. The one that got passed around online before anyone knew my name. I thought a photographer in Los Angeles took it. So did everybody else. She looked at me. My first agency scanned the copy I brought with me. They cropped it, retouched it, and submitted it to the client as part of my test portfolio. I told them you took it. I wrote your name on the back. I stared at the print. And when the campaign took off, they said the image had been created during an agency test shoot. I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. That is convenient, I argued. How hard? Her face changed. Hard enough that they put a contract in front of me and told me I could either sign or go home. The rain tapped against the front windows. I did not say anything. Claire continued. I had been in Los Angeles for 6 weeks. I owed money for the model apartment. I owed the agency for test shoots I never asked for. My mom had just lost hours at work. I had $73 in my checking account. So you signed? Yes. I looked down at my hands. I expected anger to arrive like heat. Instead, what came first was disappointment, not because of the photograph. I had taken thousands of pictures since then. I was not a photographer. I had never planned to sell that image. It hurt because she had known. 4 years of silence suddenly had a shape. You could have called me. I know. You could have sent one message. I know. You were my roommate, Claire, my best friend. Her eyes dropped. I know. I stood and walked to the front window because sitting still felt impossible. Outside, rainwater ran along the curb under the streetlights. Why now? She did not answer right away. Then I heard the portfolio close. Because yesterday they tried to make me sign another lie. I turned. She had gone pale. What kind of lie? A statement saying I had never objected to how that photograph was used. Saying I had always understood the agency owned it. They are preparing for a sale. New investors. They are cleaning up old contracts and rights issues. And you refused. I walked out of a campaign fitting in Seattle. Left my phone with my assistant, took a car to the airport, rented another car here, and drove to your house. You knew I still lived here? I knew. The answer came too quickly. I studied her. How? Claire looked at the floor. That is the other part. I waited. She opened the portfolio again and pulled out a thin envelope. My name was written across the front in her handwriting. I have been keeping track of you. That sounded worse than she meant it, and we both knew it. She gave a tired breath. Not like that. I knew about the workshop. I knew when you bought this place. I knew you got engaged. My chest tightened. And when it ended? She nodded. How? Your business page? Mutual friends? Your sister's Christmas posts? I never asked anyone to report on you. I just looked. Why? Her eyes met mine. Because leaving Portland did not make me stop missing you. There it was. Not a confession, exactly. More like a door opening onto a room I had spent years pretending did not exist. I sat back down. Claire pushed the envelope toward me. I did not touch it. What is that? Letters. How many? Too many. You wrote me letters and never sent them? Yes. That is insane. I am aware. For the first time that night, she laughed. It came out shaky, and she covered her face with one hand. I should have been furious. Part of me was. Where are you staying? I asked. She blinked. I have not figured that out. You came here without a plan? I had a plan. The plan was to tell you the truth. That is not a plan. That is a confession with transportation. Her mouth twitched. I pointed toward the stairs. The guest room is still there. She stared at me. Ethan. One night. Tomorrow we figure out the rest. What if you decide you hate me by morning? Then I will charge you hotel rates. She looked down at the portfolio. Thank you. I almost said, don't thank me yet. The next morning, for breakfast, she made eggs while I toasted bread. We moved around each other with the strange familiarity of people whose bodies remembered a routine their lives had abandoned. I finally asked, what happens if your agency finds you? They already know I left. That was not my question. She set down the spatula. My contract has 38 days left. And if you refuse the statement, they can make things expensive. They can freeze payments, fight over usage rights, tell clients I am difficult. Can they stop you from working? Not forever. I leaned against the counter. What do you want? Her answer surprised me. I want to finish what I agreed to finish. Then I want to decide what comes next without 10 people telling me what my face is worth. That sounds reasonable. You say that like reasonable things are easy. They usually are not. She looked at me for a long moment. Then she said, Can I come to the workshop? I laughed. Why? Because if I stay here alone, I will spend all day refreshing news sites to see whether somebody has decided I am having a public breakdown. Are you having a public breakdown? No. Mine is very private and organized. That is good. I have clients who prefer organized breakdowns. She threw a dish towel at me. It felt so normal that both of us went quiet afterward. My workshop was 10 minutes away in an old warehouse near the river. I shared the building with a ceramic artist, a bicycle frame builder, and a company that made expensive candles with names like Moss After Rain. Claire had never seen the current space. When she left Portland, I had been working out of a one-car garage with a table saw that tripped the breaker every time I used the shop vacuum. She walked in slowly. There were finished walnut tables along one wall, oak chairs in various stages of sanding, shelves of clamps, sketches taped above my bench, and sawdust in places I had stopped noticing years ago. You did this, she said. I had help. No, I mean you built this life. The way she said it made me uncomfortable. I picked up a stack of invoices. I mostly built late fees. She smiled. That first day, I put her to work, sanding the edge of a bench. You are trusting me with power tools, she asked. No power tools. Coward. Insurance policy. On Friday, Claire found a stack of my work orders beside the office printer. She picked one up. You show clients every material cost? Pretty much. And your labor rate? Yes. And what happens if the price changes? I call before I spend their money. She read another page, then laughed without humor. Do you realize how radical this looks to me? It is an invoice. In modeling, half the time you see deductions after the check arrives. Test shoots, apartments, cars, advances, commissions. Everyone tells you not to worry about the details because somebody else understands them. She sat at my desk and turned the work order over. What are you doing? Writing down everything I wish somebody had explained to me when I was 21. By the end of the afternoon, the back of that page was covered with notes. Plain language contracts, visible fees, independent legal review, a cooling off period before long agreements, and one line Claire had underlined twice. No one should have to choose between asking a question and keeping the job. You planning to publish that? I asked. I do not know. What stopped you before? She looked at the page. I thought surviving the system meant I had learned how to use it. And now I think I learned how to survive it. That night, we ordered Thai food and ate in my living room. The portfolio was still on the coffee table. So was the envelope of letters. I had not opened it. Claire noticed me looking. You can read them. I know. You do not have to. I know. She put down her fork. Ethan, there is something I need to say before you do. I waited. The photograph is why I came back. The agency paperwork is why I came now. But neither is the whole reason. My chest tightened. She looked directly at me. When I was your roommate, I fell in love with you. The room seemed to get quieter. Claire continued before I could respond. I never said anything because I was 21 and terrified I would ruin the safest friendship I had ever had. You were building your business. I was trying to figure out whether I could afford next month's rent. Then Los Angeles happened. I sat very still. I thought distance would fix it, she said. Then the agency used your photograph. I wanted to call you, but every day I waited made the call harder. And after I signed that contract, I was ashamed. You were 22. That does not make it right. No. I kept telling myself I would explain once I was established. Then once the campaign ended. Then once I changed agencies. Then once I had enough money that you would know I was not coming back because I needed something. And 4 years passed. Yes. I rubbed a hand over my jaw. There were things I could have said. I could have told her I had loved her too. That the night before she left for Los Angeles, I had stood outside her bedroom door with a stupid speech in my head and never knocked. That I had dated people after she left and compared every easy silence to the ones Claire and I used to share. But she had arrived carrying 4 years of truth. I was not ready to answer with another 4 years all at once. So I said, I need time. She nodded immediately. I know. No, I mean, really. I do not want this to turn into some dramatic reunion where we confuse history with what we want now. Her eyes shined, but she did not look away. I do not want that either. Good. Saturday morning, a photograph of Claire's rental car appeared online. Somebody had spotted her outside my workshop. By noon, 2 entertainment accounts had posted that she was hiding in Portland with a mystery man. By 3, someone had found my business website. At 4:15, I got an email from a hotel client asking whether recent publicity might affect our delivery schedule. Claire read it over my shoulder. Her face drained. I am sorry. It is one nervous client. It starts with 1. You do not know that. I do. Her phone rang. She looked at the screen. My manager. Answer it. I do not want to. That is why you should. She stepped into the office and closed the door. I could hear only pieces. No, that is not true. I am not confirming anything. Then silence. Then, do not bring Ethan into this. My stomach dropped. A minute later, she opened the door. What happened? They want me back in Seattle on Monday. For what? A meeting with the campaign company and the agency's lawyers. And the statement? Still part of it. I folded my arms. What did they say about me? Claire looked angry now, not tired. They implied you might be encouraging me to break my contract because you think you have a financial claim. I laughed. That is creative. They can make it uglier. Can they? Yes. The word came out sharp. They can say you suddenly appeared because you want money. They can say I am unstable. They can leak old photos. They can make our friendship look like a scheme. I stared at her. So, what are you going to do? I am going to Seattle. I did not expect the answer to sting. You said you did not want them making choices for you. I am choosing to go. To sign? No. She stepped closer. To look them in the face and say, no. Monday morning, I drove Claire to the train station. She could have rented another car. She said she did not want to. We stood beneath the covered entrance while rain blew sideways across the street. I may be gone 2 days, she said. Okay, if they threaten the photograph rights. Claire. She stopped. I do not care about getting paid for that picture. I know. I care that you tell the truth. Her expression softened. That is what I am trying to do. I wanted to hug her. Instead, I shoved my hands into my jacket pockets. She noticed. Of course she did. Ethan? Yeah? When I come back, if I come back, do not say if. Her eyes searched mine. I took a breath. When you come back, we will talk. She nodded. Then she stepped forward and hugged me anyway. For 1 second, I kept my arms at my sides. Then I held her. She fit against me with painful familiarity. When she pulled away, neither of us said anything else. The next 2 days were awful. Not dramatic, just slow. The hotel client postponed the project. A restaurant owner I had worked with for years called to ask whether reporters were going to start showing up at my shop. 2 photographers waited across the street Tuesday morning. I closed the front blinds and kept working. Claire texted only twice. First, meeting done. Did not sign. Then, 6 hours later, more tomorrow. I'm okay. Wednesday afternoon, a celebrity news site published a story claiming I had demanded compensation related to Claire's early promotional materials. It quoted an anonymous source. I had demanded nothing. The article included an old photograph of Claire and me carrying a couch up the townhouse steps years earlier. Someone had pulled it from a mutual friend's social media. The caption called me a former roommate turned business associate. That phrase made me angrier than the money accusation. Not because it was false, because it made 4 years of friendship sound like a strategy. At 5, Claire called. I saw it, she said. Great. I am coming back tonight. You do not have to rush. Yes, I do. I leaned against my workbench. Did your agency leak it? I cannot prove it. That is not a no. No. I closed my eyes. Ethan, I am sorry. You keep saying that. I keep having reasons. I need to finish this table. Silence. Then she said quietly, I will see you tonight. She arrived after 10. This time she had a suitcase. That bothered me immediately. She walked into the living room and set it near the stairs. What is that? My things, I can see that. I checked out of the hotel. I am done with the Seattle campaign. And I am going to stay somewhere else. I stared at her. Why? Because your clients are getting dragged into this. So this is my mess. That does not mean you get to decide what I can handle. Her jaw tightened. I am trying to protect you. I laughed once. That is exactly what you said you did 4 years ago. The words landed hard. Claire looked like I had slapped her. I regretted them immediately, but I did not take them back. She looked down. You're right. That is not what I wanted you to say. What do you want me to say? I want you to stop leaving every time the truth gets uncomfortable. Her eyes flashed. You think this is comfortable for me? No. I think leaving is familiar. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then she said, You have no idea what those years were like. Then tell me. I was 22 years old, in rooms full of people twice my age deciding whether my hips were marketable. I learned to smile when I was exhausted. I learned which photographers were safe to be alone with and which assistants to keep near the door. I learned that saying no could make a phone stop ringing. I learned that saying yes could make you hate yourself for a week. Her voice shook. I am not asking you to feel sorry for me. I chose the career. A lot of it was incredible. I traveled, I met good people, I made more money than I ever imagined. But every decision became a calculation. Every friendship was someone they wanted to evaluate. Every relationship became something publicists had opinions about. She pointed toward the portfolio. And the first big thing they did was tell me the truth about that photograph did not matter. I said nothing. So yes, she continued, I got used to leaving before someone could make the cost of staying too high. The anger drained out of me. Not all of it. Enough. I sat on the edge of the sofa. Claire stayed standing. What happened in Seattle? She let out a long breath. I refused the statement. My lawyer gave them notice that we are challenging the old image release, not for money, for correction. What does that mean? If it works, future uses of the photograph have to credit you. They also have to acknowledge the original source. And if it does not work, then we decide whether fighting is worth it. We? She looked at me carefully. Only if you want to be involved? I nodded. What else? I ended my relationship with the agency. Completely? Yes, that sounds expensive. It is. You okay? She gave a small laugh. Ask me in 6 months. I looked at the suitcase. Where were you planning to go? A hotel. No. Ethan, no. You do not get to make a dramatic speech about not running away and then run away to a hotel. I made the dramatic speech. I know. It was long. She stared at me. Then she laughed. It started small and surprised, then turned into the kind of laugh that made her bend forward with one hand over her face. I had missed that sound. When she straightened, I was smiling too. The tension did not disappear, but it changed. She sat beside me, not touching, close enough that I could feel her warmth. I meant what I said the other night, she whispered. About the mushrooms? She looked at me. I smiled. About loving you. The humor left her face. I meant it too, I said. She went completely still. I looked down at my hands. I loved you before you left. I did not tell you because I thought asking you to stay would be selfish. Then you became famous, and every month it felt more ridiculous to imagine you might have felt the same. Claire's eyes filled. You never said anything. Neither did you. That is incredibly annoying. I agree. She laughed through a breath. Then we just looked at each other. I could have kissed her. I wanted to. Instead, I reached for her hand. Her fingers closed around mine. Not tonight, I said. She blinked. What? I do not want our first real decision to happen because we are exhausted and scared. A slow smile appeared. That might be the most Ethan thing you have ever said. Is that good? It is infuriating. Good! She leaned her head against my shoulder. We sat that way for a long time. No cameras, no explanations, just the quiet hum of the refrigerator and rain against the windows. The next morning, Claire asked if she could use my office after the workshop closed. For what? A call. With who? People who are probably going to tell me I am being reckless. That evening, 2 young models, a former agency bookkeeper, Claire's lawyer, and a retired casting director appeared on my laptop screen around the conference table I normally used for clients. I stayed out of the meeting until Claire waved me in for pizza. The conversation lasted nearly 3 hours. They talked about hidden deductions, vague exclusivity clauses, young talent signing documents they did not understand, and the strange pressure to appear grateful even when a deal was bad. Claire did not dominate the call. She listened. That was what caught my attention. When somebody described a problem, she wrote it down. When she did not understand something, she asked. When one of the younger women apologized for not knowing how commissions worked, Claire stopped her. You are not supposed to be embarrassed because somebody made the rules hard to see, she said. After the call, the legal pad in front of her was full. What are you building? I asked. She stared at the pages. Maybe nothing. Maybe a small talent cooperative. Transparent fees. Outside contract review. No debt for test shoots unless someone agrees to it in writing first. That sounds like more than nothing. It also sounds expensive. So was my first table saw. She looked at me. Your motivational speeches need work. I make furniture. Over the next 2 weeks, she kept making calls. She also kept modeling, but differently. She accepted one regional catalog job because she liked the team, and the contract had been rewritten in plain language. She turned down a luxury campaign in New York because she did not want the schedule. Watching her make choices was different from watching her escape. It made something settle in me. One Friday evening, 3 weeks after she arrived, we closed the workshop early and walked along the river. The sky was clear for once. Portland looked almost embarrassed by the sunshine. Claire wore jeans, boots, and a navy coat. Nobody stopped her. A cyclist passed us. A dog barked at a goose. Normal life kept happening around us. We reached the pedestrian bridge and stopped near the middle. Claire leaned against the rail. My lawyer called today. What did she say? The agency offered a correction agreement. That was fast. They want the sale to go through. What does the correction say? That the original image was taken by Ethan Mercer in Portland, Oregon, before I signed with the agency. Future commercial use requires permission. I looked at her. You did that? We did. No. You did. She shook her head. I should have done it 4 years ago. Maybe. She looked away. I stepped closer. But you did it now. Her eyes came back to mine. The wind moved a strand of hair across her face. I reached up and tucked it behind her ear before I could overthink it. Claire went very still. So, she said softly, is this the part where you tell me we should wait another month because of emotional clarity? I was considering a quarterly review. That seems responsible. Very. She smiled. Then I kissed her. It was not like the movies. No swelling music, no city lights turning brighter. A bus crossed the bridge behind us, loud enough to ruin any cinematic moment. Claire laughed against my mouth. I laughed too. Then we kissed again. This time, neither of us stopped, because life was messy. We simply let the moment be real inside the mess. Afterward, we stayed by the rail talking. Not about fate, about practical things. Her staying at my house, my need for space when I was working, her travel schedule, the fact that we had both changed, the risk of turning memory into expectation. It was the least romantic conversation I had ever had after a kiss. It may also have been the most important. 2 days later, we had our first fight as something more than former roommates. It started with an interview Claire gave about the cooperative. She had agreed to speak with a Portland business reporter because the story was supposed to focus on transparent contracts and why young models needed independent advice. The article went online that morning. Most of it was good. Then, near the end, Claire mentioned that watching a small business owner explain every cost to a customer had helped her realize how much secrecy she had accepted in her own industry. She never used my name. The reporter identified me anyway. Within hours, my workshop address was in entertainment posts, and one account called me the secret boyfriend behind Claire Donovan's career rebellion. I was furious, not at her, at the situation, but anger is rarely polite enough to choose the right target. I told you I did not want publicity. I did not name you. That does not matter anymore. I know. No. You keep saying you know after things happen. Her face closed. I heard myself. Too late. Claire crossed her arms. What would you like me to do, Ethan? Never talk about anything that happened in Portland? Pretend nobody helped me think differently? Pretend we are not together? I did not say that. Then say what you mean. I looked at the floor. What I meant was that I was scared. My life had always been small enough to understand. Clients, deadlines, mortgage payments, Sunday dinner with my sister twice a month. The people I loved could reach me directly. Claire's world had millions of strangers standing outside every conversation. I do not know how to live with this, I admitted. Her expression softened. That is different. I know. She came closer. I do not know how to live with it either. You have been doing it for years. Surviving something is not the same as knowing how to live with it. That sentence stayed with me. We talked for 2 hours. We made rules. No interviews from my home. No identifying the workshop without asking me first. No hiding the relationship forever, but no selling it either. If reporters called, we did not answer separately out of panic. If either of us needed to leave a room, we said we were leaving instead of disappearing. That last rule was mostly for Claire. She knew it. By spring, Claire's late-night idea had become a real company. She called it Open Door Talent. It was small on purpose. The first roster had 12 people. New models, 2 commercial actors, and a woman in her 40s who had returned to modeling after raising 3 children. Every contract showed commissions on the first page. Every outside expense needed written approval. Anyone signing a long agreement got a paid hour with an independent attorney who did not work for Claire. The launch was held in a borrowed event space above a neighborhood restaurant. There was no runway, no velvet rope, no wall of sponsors. Instead, Claire stood in front of folding chairs and explained exactly how the business would make money. I watched 2 young women in the front row exchange a look when she showed the sample contract on a screen. Afterward, one of them came up to Claire. "I almost signed with another agency last month," she said. I was afraid to ask what half the words meant. Claire did not tell her she had been foolish. She said, "Good contracts survive questions." The young woman nodded. I saw Claire look away for a second to collect herself. Later, after everyone left, I found her sitting on the edge of the low stage with her shoes off. "You know," I said, "the first night you came back, you were barefoot too." She laughed. "I had shoes. You were carrying them. They were hurting me. That feels symbolic. Do not ruin this." I sat beside her. For a while, we looked at the empty chairs. Then she said, "I spent years thinking success meant getting into rooms I was scared to lose." I waited. She looked around. "I think I would rather help build a room people are allowed to question." 6 months after she first appeared on my porch, I signed a lease on the empty unit beside my workshop. We knocked through part of the dividing wall. Half became my finishing room. Half became Claire's small casting room and office. We argued over square footage. She won by 3 feet. I claimed she cheated with the measuring tape. She claimed I was emotionally attached to a storage shelf. Both things were probably true. The old fire escape photograph hung in the shared hallway between our spaces. Not the retouched campaign version. The original. Chipped paint. Laundry line. Oversized white shirt. Claire laughing before she knew anyone would care how she looked. Under the frame was a small brass plaque she had made without telling me. Photograph by Ethan Mercer, Portland, Oregon, before everything changed. The first time I saw it, I stood there longer than I meant to. Claire came up behind me carrying a box of contract folders. "You hate the plaque?" "No. Too sentimental?" "Yes. I can remove it." "No." She smiled. I turned toward her. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if we had told each other the truth when we were roommates?" "All the time." "And?" And I think we might have dated for 6 months and destroyed each other. I laughed. That is optimistic. I was 21. You were 25. You thought owning 2 matching plates meant you had your life together. I did have 2 matching plates. You were unbearable. You loved me. I had terrible judgment. She stepped closer. I put my hands around her waist. So you do not wish we had done it differently? Her expression softened. I wish I had not lied about the photograph. I wish I had called. I wish I had not let shame turn into silence. She touched my chest, but I do not wish away the years that made us who we are. That answer felt true enough to keep. There are people who believe the biggest moments in a relationship are the dramatic ones. The confession, the kiss, the person appearing at your door after years away. Those moments matter. But I think the real story is what happens after. Whether they stay when the headlines fade, whether you can tell each other the unflattering truth, whether you can make breakfast after a fight, whether you can watch someone become more themselves without trying to make that transformation about you. Claire did not come back to Portland because I rescued her. I did not save her from modeling. She did not save me from an ordinary life. She came back because she was tired of letting other people decide which truths were too inconvenient to say out loud. I opened the door because some part of me had never stopped hoping I would get the chance to hear them. The secret she carried that night began with a photograph. But the truth underneath it was simpler. She had left because she was afraid. She returned because she finally wanted to choose differently. And I had to choose too. Not the girl who used to steal my sweatshirt, not the famous woman strangers thought they knew. Claire, as she was now. Complicated, ambitious, sometimes stubborn enough to make me walk around the block before answering. Still capable of leaving coffee beside my workbench without saying a word when she knew I was stressed. Still the person who could make a room feel less empty simply by being in it. A few weeks ago, we replaced the old green sofa. It had finally given up. One of the wooden supports cracked while Claire was sitting on it, editing photographs. She blamed me for keeping it too long. I blamed her for years of unauthorized use. We carried it out to the curb together. Before the city pickup came, Claire stood beside it and took one last picture. Seriously? I asked. She lowered the camera. Some things deserve proof they were here. I looked at the worn cushions, the frayed arm, the place where 2 broke roommates had once eaten takeout and planned futures neither of them understood. Then I looked at her. Send me that one. She smiled. I will. And this time I knew she would. If someone from your past came back with a truth that could change the way you remembered everything, would you want to hear it, even if it hurt first? Tell me what you would choose. And if this story stayed with you, you can subscribe and come back for the next one.